Terrific to be here today at the launch of the 2016 Motor Accident Commission Footy Express public transport service for Adelaide Oval Games. This has been a terrific service that we've been able to deliver in partnership with the two football clubs, the SANFL and the Stadium Management Authority for the last 2 years. But today we're particularly proud to welcome our new major sponsor, the Motor Accident Commission, who will be on board to not only support the clubs and the government provide these services, but to really deliver the key message of road safety. This is one of the reasons why we wanted to provide public transport free of charge to ticket holders who are going along to the football games, was to help people make better choices about how they got to and from the games. We know that a lot of people like to have one or two beers when they go to the football, and making sure that they leave the car at home and take public transport is making a much better decision. And now this season, with the Motor Accident Commission on board, we've got not only a great brand and great effort with the Motor Accident Commission when it comes to promoting road safety messages, but we've also got two football clubs, perhaps the two football clubs in the country that do the best job when it comes to community engagement, on board as well, promoting that road safety message throughout the season. So not only will we have a great public transport service continuing this year for fans going to and from the footy games, but we've got a great partnership now between the Motor Accident Commission and the two football clubs to make sure we're delivering that road safety message.
Do you feel like you've worked out those, teething problems with the new oval, getting the structure right in terms of the number of buses and services when it comes to game day?
Oh, absolutely. And look, we haven't had to make as many refinements this year as what we made between the first and the second season last year. You might remember last year we brought the services forward an extra hour before the games and also after the games as well, because the demand was so high. And we've made some refinements, but nothing like what we had to make last year. And what we're also seeing is people's habits are continuing to evolve when they go to the football. So the experience last season was people were increasingly coming into the city a lot earlier before the games, going and grabbing something to eat, or perhaps doing something else in the city several hours before the games. And we need to reflect those sorts of changes in demand with the public transport services as well. So we've made some refinements, but we're making sure that we're continuing to get the majority of people to and from the games by public transport. It's a good thing for road safety, it's a good thing for convenience, it's cheaper for people obviously, they're not having to worry about fuel or parking costs. It's a great thing for the city as well, because we're seeing more and more people spending more time in the city before and after the games.
Are there any changes to routes? I remember last year there was a bit of talk about the northern suburbs. Some residents thought that they may have missed out on some routes that they'd previously enjoyed. Have there been any changes this year?
We've only changed 3 routes this year. Basically, we've had 3 services in different parts of the city, depending on whether it's a Port or a Crows game, where people weren't catching the bus. So for example, down near where I live, one of the outer harbour services, people were just choosing to use the train rather than the bus. So we've changed that bus route to reflect that change in patronage. We've also adjusted some of the timetables. So for example, some of the eastern suburb services for Port games weren't being very highly patronised, so we've reduced the frequency. Instead, I think of every 20 minutes, the service to Burnside is every 30 minutes. And they're 2 examples of just some of the changes. But I think in total, the number of changes is less than 20, and most of it is minor timetable changes. So very few changes this year. But of course, what we'll also see is we've got a much larger train fleet now with the electric trains all in service. That means we can run more train services, we can run longer trains, not just on the Seaford line, but also the Gawler and the Outer Harbour lines, which are particularly heavily patronised for both Port and Crows games. So there'll be a big boost in train services, as well as just some of those minor timetable adjustments for buses.
What about the cost? What does it cost each ticket, and what does it cost in the state government and the clubs?
Well, look, I'm really pleased that we've been able to reach agreement across all of the seasons with the two clubs, that there'll be no costs imposed on ticket holders. This is a cost which is borne by the government, by the clubs, by the SANFL and by the Stadium Management Authority. So we're sharing in all of those costs, and of course the new sponsorship from the Motor Accident Commission is helping with those costs. So in total, we spend between $3.2 and $3.3 million a year providing these public transport services. The clubs each put in about $700,000 each. There's about $300,000 which comes from the SANFL, about $100,000 from the SMA. So We're really pleased that we're not passing those costs on to ticket holders. Instead, it's the government, the clubs, and the SANFL and the stadium, which is making a big contribution towards those costs as well. Now, in this season, having the Motor Accident Commission sponsorship on board is helping us with those costs as well.
How important is it to lock it in for the next 3 years? You've obviously seen it successful in the previous years to have committed to the 3 years. What does that mean for fans?
Oh, look, it's now part of the game day experience for at least half the fans who are coming along to the games. They know that they can jump on a train, a tram, or a bus and get in free of charge, and that gives them a lot of flexibility to spend time before or after the game in the city, or get to the Oval early and enjoy some of the activities that the Oval's got to offer before the first bounce. So we want to lock it in. We want to send a message that this service is here to stay, and importantly, it's here to stay at no direct cost to people who are paying to come along to the game. So it's a great win for fans as well.
What kind of... Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. Are there any plans to expand this to other sports, not just footy?
Yeah, I mean, we've said to other sports that we're more than willing to provide these services, whether it's soccer, whether it's cricket. And in fact, we have been providing these services, particularly for some of the big international soccer games that we've had here at Adelaide Oval, as well as putting on extra services, whether it's for race days down at Morphettville, or whether it's been for major concerts or other events. So we think it sends a great message to people who want to come into the city for a sporting event, or whether it's for a concert or another activity, to leave the car at home to take advantage of transport. But it does require a lot of work at the front end between the government, as well as, perhaps whether it's the ground management or the sporting clubs, to make sure we know what sort of service we want to offer, and then make sure that we can afford to pay for it.
Do you know roughly what kind of uptake we had of the free public transport system from fans last year, like, I guess, numbers or percentage-wise?
Yeah, sure. So we're seeing about 50% of people coming along to the games using public transport. Overall patronage was a little bit lower last year, but that's because we had 2 less games than what we had in the first season in 2014. So getting about 50% of people coming along to the games taking public transport, it's obviously great for the fans, but it's a great thing for people coming into the Oval as well. Less cars on the road, less congestion, less risk of any accidents happening, and that's a good thing for the city.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you. The Motor Accident Commission is really pleased to be participating in this partnership with Adelaide Football Club, Port Adelaide Football Club, and also the department as well. This partnership provides us with the opportunity not only to put our messages onto the Mac Footy Express trains, trams and buses, it also gives us access to Adelaide Oval during match days for us to directly engage with footy fans with our road safety messages as well. As our official road safety partner, Port Adelaide and Adelaide have appointed Sam Jacobs and Brad Ebert as our Mac Road Safety Ambassadors, 2 very well respected players, and we're looking forward to working with them in getting our game changer messages through. Just on that, we're still losing over 100 people on our roads each year, and last year alone we had 750 serious injuries. So it's still a very important area of work for us at the Motor Accident Commission, and we hope that people will listen to Brad and Sam with their game changer messages. Hopefully encourage them to be game changers themselves within their circle of friends and family. Make sure they don't take risks when they get behind a wheel, and stay safe on our roads.
How much, in relation to those deaths, obviously drink driving is a big thing, how many of those deaths are attributed to drink driving roughly?
Well, about 18% of deaths regarding drink driving. Yeah.
How important is free public transport to changing that mindset from some when it comes to coming to the footy?
I think public transport access is always very important in giving an opportunity for people to have an option to drink driving. I think it's pretty normal for people to have a few drinks when they're going to the footy. The public transport gives you an opportunity to avoid that risk.
And 50% of footy fans last year using the service. How good is that for the Motor Accident Commission to have the assurance that people are using the public transport and being responsible?
Very, very important. I guess our message is for people to make the right decisions and not take risks. And so any access to public transport and alternative to drink driving is always very important to us.
Yeah, well, that's Sam and I are both very proud to be Motor Accident Commission ambassadors for the year. We know that it's a great cause, and we know that it's a really strong message that they're trying to get across with the game changer message. And yeah, so we're just excited about trying to promote that message throughout the year, and really make people aware that that they can make the right decisions when they go to the game. They have the opportunities there, and they can and get home safely.
How important do you think it is to have that option, I guess, of free public transport?
Yeah, I think it is like you said, it's the option that they have there. That they have the ability there to go, okay, I might be having a few drinks at the game. Let's just take the risk out of it. Catch a train, catch a bus, and it is so easily accessible. I think that, as Stephen said, there's that many routes around the city that they really don't have any excuse to not use it. And with 50% of people going to the football on public transport, I think that at least the message is getting across.
Well, Sam, what about you, mate? We know that road trauma affects touches a lot of lives. How important is it, this kind of initiative by the state government and MAC?
Yeah, it is. It's a great initiative, and you're right. It's something that holds very close to me. I'm from the country, so the percentages are a lot higher in the country, and I've got a lot of friends and family that come from the rural areas, and they love to take advantage of the public transport. So it's not only good to get them to the ground safely, but as it's been mentioned before, it's also great to have more people in the city and hanging around after games.
And in terms of the easy access, how important is it to have that access for fans so that you can have more fans cheering you on?
Yeah, absolutely. It is, and we're very fortunate, Port Adelaide and Adelaide, that we've got great fans, and we do pack the stadium out most weeks. So it's obviously paramount to make sure that people will get here safely, and as mentioned as well, people are getting here earlier to make sure they get their seats. So the more options supporters have, the better it is.
And the next 3 years that this is locked in, pretty exciting for you guys to know that that'll go ahead for fans?
Yeah, absolutely. As mentioned, safety is obviously the number one thing, and just giving people options as well. So it's definitely great.